Firstborn, product of a tiger mum, classic type A personality, ambitious, overachieving. Growing up, I was told I could do whatever I put my hand and heart to. And so I did. I ticked all the boxes. With a little bit of hard work, a little bit more sass, I walked this tightrope of expectations and achieved everything I wanted to. I was also the one who bucked the Asian stereotype. If I didn't like something, you would hear about it. So when I got the promotion but not the raise, I spoke up. When I didn't get those sexy projects because I wasn't on the in team at work, I spoke up. I powered through things because I could. I was in control. Until, and you knew this was coming, right? Until I decided it was time to have children. Trying to be pregnant for me was like baking that basic butter cake. I had the recipe, I had all the ingredients, but time and again my cake was a flop. Meanwhile, everyone around me was baking these perfect little butter cakes. And I was on the end of irritating commentary like, maybe your eggs aren't fresh enough. Or your oven's too hot. Or relax, you're beating the eggs too long. To make matters worse, every second woman I met was a pregnant one. Suddenly, friends who confessed to never wanting children were gleefully announcing, "We're pregnant!" What a surprise! We weren't even trying. Let me tell you, we were. Every which way. We tried the timing method. We tried the temperature method. We tried my legs up in the air method. We threw the entire Kama Sutra at it. And still nothing. From being the one who spoke up when things bothered me, I suddenly felt weighed down by all these Asian constraints, where words like infertility, miscarriage, low sperm count were spoken in whispers. Because of all these ingrained rules of what we can and can't talk about, I didn't know where to begin to have these awkward conversations. So instead of this perfect butter cake, I contracted FOSU-itis. Has anyone heard of this before? All right, say it with me. FOSU-itis. Come on. FOSU-itis. Make friends with it. One more time. FOSU-itis. Thank you. It's the fear of speaking up. So in the lead up to today, I conducted a survey, Asia-wide. I had 100 participants. 12% admitted to feeling uncomfortable when sharing personal challenges in work circles as well as social circles. When asked why, the reasons cited were feeling of shame, the lack of encouragement to speak up, feeling vulnerable, all disempowering feelings. You see, when you don't see yourself as being powerful, there's no way you're going to step up and speak up. So perhaps you want that promotion, but you have no other alternative, and so you shut up. Perhaps you're the newbie on that team, but you don't think you've got enough experience or respect to suggest a different way of doing things, and so you retreat. Perhaps you've got more invested in that relationship than the other person, and you don't want to risk losing them, and so you don't speak up. I was no different. We were the odd ones out. I mean, our condition wasn't something you spoke about in polite conversation. My range of acceptable behavior was such that because I was not in control of my reproductive self, talking about it was off limits. So I decided I'm going to find some way to put me back in control. And so began my IVF journey of fertility drugs, of retrievals and transfers, of what felt like 100 blood tests, of 7-inch needles, and yes, size does matter. Thank goodness I had the fat. I mean, the subcutaneous tissue that eased the pain, but not the bruising. It's also a story of miscarriages and of days so bleak, I didn't know which way was up. We welcomed IVF into our lives 7 times, twice with full retrievals, twice losing twins after several weeks. By this time, FOSU-itis had me like a vice. I felt like this crumpled piece of paper picked out of a bin, smoothed over, except my scars were all on show. And so I retreated, unwilling to let anyone see the state of this rope that I was now walking on. My partner felt stripped of his agency. His role in the bedroom now moved to a petri dish. Science had replaced passion. And so I didn't speak up when I mourned my little babies, even when I was appalled at some of the things people were saying. And he didn't speak up about how it felt to be intimate with a plastic cup. Sometimes the only company, grimy old magazines, so outdated, the models were probably grandmothers themselves. FOSU-itis, we were caught in what Adam Galinsky calls the low-power double bind. You see, when we don't feel powerful, we don't speak up because no one knows, right? Because if we did, there's this fear of the consequences. In our case, if we didn't speak up, we were a normal couple. But if we did, if we overshared, we were just going to be fodder for more speculation. Just like any disease, FOSU-itis doesn't discriminate. It manifests itself in every area of our lives, including the workplace. In a Holmes report in 2018, from a survey of 400 companies across the UK and the US, the cost of lack of communication is $25 billion in lost production. Take the financial crisis. You had financiers, macroeconomists, banks watching this thing unfold, and no one had the courage to speak up about this debt overload. Sony Walkman, they introduced 3 digital music devices produced by 3 separate departments, all at the same time. Why? Because these different divisions were operating in silos. No one talked to each other. And so there was this clumsy dance with the elephant in the room, because there was this feeling of disempowerment where the employees didn't feel that they could talk about or call out flawed decisions from the top. My favorite author, Atul Gawande, in his book Complications, talks about nurses in rural parts of India who feel powerless, talking about doctors who weren't washing hands, the lack of clean gloves, the lack of proper suction machines, thus compromising birth mortality rates in these areas. It doesn't need to be like this. We hold the cure to FOSU-itis in our hands. When people see themselves as being powerful in their eyes, as well as in other people's eyes, they're going to want to speak up. So it's up to you. As a leader, acknowledge the power that you see in the individuals around you. Hold up that mirror so they can see what you see, so they can see themselves as being powerful. You are in a perfect opportunity to create this environment where you don't need the armor, you don't need that war paint, just to speak your own truth. So if someone comes up to you and wants that promotion, give them the opportunity, ignite that fire and let them speak up. If you have a new person on your team and they think something can be done better, express humility. Listen to them. The next time you get an insensitive behavior report, recognize that bravery for making that report so they will speak up. We don't have to be leaders just to do this. You owe it to yourself to acknowledge that power that you see in the mirror. So the next time you want that raise, find your options. Inspire others and speak up. The next time you're new on the team and you think something can be done a little bit more efficiently, forget whether you have the experience or not. Speak up. And the next time you're harassed in the office, recognize your value and speak up. FOSU-itis made me lose my way several times on this road trip. But every time I found the power to ease that fear and speak up, beautiful things happened. Channels opened. The first time I spoke up was to look for an alternative. And through our first round of IVF, we were blessed with my firstborn. After several failed IVF attempts, and I finally had the courage to speak up to my partner about putting adoption back on the table, like magic, we were presented with the opportunity of adopting my second. And this is what I have now. Standing in front of you today is the next step in that speaking up journey. To say that it's been hard to dig deep and stand in front of you would be an understatement. As Martin Luther King once said, we may all have come on a different ship, but we're certainly on the same boat now. You may not have been through what I did. You may very well have been those gleefully pregnant ones. But we've all been through something that we wished we talked about because somebody else could be helped and someone else could draw power from your truth. So here I am, drawing power from my truth, speaking up about my journey. So you might use me as a source of information, yes, but more strength and inspiration. So you can ignite that power in you. So join me, pick up that gauntlet, and let's slay FOSU-itis together.